Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about ship rebalancing. Now, CIG has changed their focus to uh, content and gameplay this year, so they've also been on a wave of rebalancing ships so they fit with that content more. And we've seen rebalance on ships like the Valkyrie with its updated cargo grid with uh, pilot controlled weapons. We've also seen updates to the Raft with a huge new cargo grid and more pilot controlled weapons of control of a top turret. And even the Herald has been rebalanced with 18 size 2 missiles. So I wanted to go over and, look at other ships that I think could be rebalanced. So I put a post out uh, to the YouTube community to kind of ask you guys what ships you would like to see get updated or rebalanced. So let's just get right into this video. And the first ship I have on this list is going to be the MSR, right? The MSR historically by the community has been used as a cargo runner because data running is not in the game yet, which again is something that people have kind of speculated with the Herald getting more missiles, is that CIG probably is changing the scope of data running a little bit for 1.0, and people are potentially disappointed by this. Honestly, I would be happy if CIG just made data running a delivery mission for now. Again, this is just temporary. But essentially in the Star Citizen universe, data cannot be sent through jump points. I believe that's the law. You guys correct me in the comments down below if I'm wrong about that. But they could essentially make data running as a something that you do between star systems. And since Star Citizen finally has two star systems, Stanton and Pyro, players can move data between the two star systems with the ship. So you make the data running mission kind of exclusive to people who have a data running ship. You go, you open the mobiGlas, you accept the mission, and the data is downloaded to your ship. So then when you call your ship, you go in the mission, you press download data, it gets sent to your ship, and then you have to go through the jump point and upload the data to the com in Pyro or whatever, and that's the mission completed. So you would need a data running ship to do this, because let's just say the data is volatile or something like that, so it needs to be stored on a data running ship. But in terms of just strictly rebalancing for gameplay sake, I think the easiest thing to do would be to just give the MSR two size 5 pilot controlled guns on this nose turret down here. Right now, the MSR has two size 3s, and in my opinion, that doesn't stack up to other ships in its class, like the Corsair and the Constellation that have four size 5s. If this ship is really going to compete with those ships in terms of price, I think that it just makes sense to bring it more in line with those ships in terms of its combat prowess. So two size 5s, in my opinion, wouldn't make the MSR overpowered, but it would just make it actually useful in combat against ships in that class. Again, it's really not going to survive against a Corsair or a Constellation. It would have to run away, but it does have that speed and maneuverability that they don't. The bottom turret is not very useful, right, because of its range and ability to get on target versus the top turret. So I think that kind of upping the guns on the top turret as well would kind of make this ship a little bit more useful for two players. And then we move on to 400i, and I would say the same thing, right? The 400 eyes weapons are kind of anemic for the class of ship this is, in my personal opinion. Uh, I would also give the 400i two size 5s. I believe right now they're two size 4s, but you're really comparing that to, ships like the Zeus, ships like the C1 that have more cargo, more DPS, right, than this ship. which is much larger. So putting two size 5s on this ship would really show that it is in a class above ships like the Zeus and the C1, right, that have size 4s. So having size 4s on the same class ship, in my opinion, just doesn't make sense. So upgrade these to two size 5 hardpoints. Another thing that I think would be interesting to add with the 400i is to just give the players a free X1, right? The Constellation comes with that snub fighter, uh, and that's really useful in, you know, certain circumstances when you want to kind of get out and fly around. I don't know how well it works right now. It's kind of always bugged for me, but uh, if you had an X1 in this ship is kind of like the RV of Star Citizen. You have the X1 automatically in the hangar. You come down, you fly around on the planet. I don't think that, takes anything away from other ships, right, in this class again. Um, because as well, you can park a Fury easily in a Corsair, even though it doesn't come with it. And I know that the Star Lancer attack is going to come with a Fury hangar, but not a Fury. So other ships in this class do have the ability to have snubs, but they don't have the snubs come with it. I don't really see the X1 as a snub. I kind of more likely see it as just kind of a runabout vehicle. So I think that it would just give a little bit more value to the 400i where it's more useful for what it's designed to do. Again, it's kind of just designed to be that luxury RV, and it has the X1 hangar. So giving it a standard X1, in my opinion, would just kind of make it more useful. Like, you don't have to give it the racing X1 or the other one. Again, I think there are two variants of the X1. So just give it the standard X1, and I think that would make it more useful. Next, we go on to the Retaliator. The Retaliator is a great ship, right? It's got the torpedo module, the cargo module. Finally, in the game, modularity is in, and that's kind of huge for this ship because of Squadron 42. I believe they, prioritized it to get it closer to gold standard. But in my opinion, a ship, it has so many turrets. Most players don't want to fully crew a ship this small, right? I think the Stance attack again is more, has the features and the size and the shields and all this stuff that a crew of players would more likely be looking for because it has that respawn capabilities. Um, but the Retaliator doesn't really have that. So its main claim to fame is going to be as a torpedo boat. So I think the best way to rebalance the Retaliator to make it more, attractive is to just give one of these, the pilot control of one of these turrets, right? CIG has essentially said that even manned turrets are going to be, you're going to be able to blade manned turrets. So, uh, why not start with the Retaliator, right? So kind of give uh now you have that modularity, give the players maybe even the ability to swap out one of the man turrets for a remote turret that the pilot can use, kind of like the Hornet series. The Hornet can switch out the ball turret or whatever. It would be kind of interesting if you could switch out one of the man turrets for a remote turret, and it just adds a blocker plate from the inside, and then from the outside the pilot can use that weapon. That kind of modularity, I think CIG could do that. uh, Again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how difficult that would be to do, but they basically redid the raft, so I think it should be possible. It's just, is that a priority? Then we have the Redeemer. I think that the Redeemer is a great ship. Personally, I think what they could do to rebalance it is just make it a little bit more maneuverable. Uh, in my personal opinion, the DPS, the pilot control DPS that is more in line with something, like the F8s and the F7s. So making it a slightly more maneuverable, in my personal opinion, wouldn't make it game breaking, right? But it would make it more attractive for teams of two people now that you have, other ships coming online, potentially that would be better than that. But, I want to know what you guys think about this specifically. Are you big Redeemer fans? Do you guys think that that would be OP? I'm not really sure because I don't have a ton of experience with the Redeemer. Then we have the Mule. The Mule is a really interesting one because it's not good. It's totally useless. uh, it is totally useless. You can't use it. It doesn't make sense to use it. No one should own one. But people love this ship. It's not like the DS, right? The DS does work. You can use it for its intended role. It's just very bad to use. Um, I personally think that CIG should. CIG has said that they're gonna redo the DS, make it better. But is that a priority? I don't know. Personally, now that you have the Atlas Geo, being able to jump around, fly around, a lot of people like that. It's soloable. I think they should just make the DS soloable as well. If there's no one in that seat, give the driver the ability to use it and just call it a day, in my personal opinion. Or or just get rid of the seat altogether and make it a solo experience, right? Just be honest about what this ship is, what this ground vehicle is. It wasn't successful as a two-person mining ship. That concept, that idea doesn't really make a lot of sense, even in an MMO setting, right? Two people don't want to get in a small ground vehicle and mine. That's just a waste of time. So I was gonna have the DS on this list, but I just don't think people would care enough. The Mule, on the other hand, right? The Mule, people do love. And so my personal opinion, the best way to rebalance this ship is to just give it a tractor beam, right? Uh, but to balance it in comparison to things like the Atlas tractor beam version is make the tractor beam limited in distance. So with the Atlas, you could basically tractor beam something from the other side of a large hangar. It has a very long range. With the Mule, just make that range, let's say 5 to 10 meters. So you have to drive up close to the box that you want to move. But the difference is this ground vehicle is very fast compared to something like the Atlas. The Atlas walks super slow, right? Even if when you're sprinting, the Atlas is much slower than the Mule. So it having that long range makes sense, right? Because you're not really going to walk to the other side of the hangar. You can track the beam from where you're at. But because the Mule is so fast and so maneuverable, it can turn on a dime. You don't really need to be that far away to tractor beam things. So just make the range of the tractor beam much less. People can drive into the cargo elevator, but it would give the Mule the ability to pick up a 32 SU box, right? So give it that tractor beam, give it the ability to pick up much larger boxes, and people would actually start using this ship, right? And then you can have like a store all box in the back if you're looting and going to bunkers and doing different things, right? You can not just use it to move cargo, but you can also have storage on it. That would make this ground vehicle so useful, right? Because you could track the beam other boxes. Let's say using it for piracy. You can put the armor and different things that you find, when tier 0 is over and you can loot players again. You can put that stuff in a store box in the back, and then you can use the tractor beam to take the cargo. So doing that for the Mule, I think, would make it vastly more useful. And then we have the Freelancer Max on this list, and I have it on this list because of the secured cargo area. I think that CIG should just remove the bulkhead, right? People have said that CIG needs to widen the door so you can move boxes to there, but in my opinion, the bulkhead's just totally useless. There's no reason. CIG has this habit of putting a lot of doorways and hallways in ships where they just don't need to be there. Right? You can just go straight to the cockpit. There's no reason to have a hallway with 3 or 4 different doors, and it's kind of a meme in Star Citizen that with ships like the MSR or especially Crusader ships where you just have all these doors. Just get rid of the bulkhead altogether. there's no reason. It's like when you're renovating a house and there's a door to the kitchen, people always just tear down that wall so to open up the floor plan. This is one of those situations where just get rid of the bulkhead, then players can utilize that storage space. But other than that, Freelancer Max is a great ship. And then, when I posted to the YouTube community, right, asking, what people think should be rebalanced, someone actually said respawns in these larger ships need to be limited. And I think that's kind of a really good idea. So I wanted to talk about that as well. Ships like the Kavik, the Polaris are now coming online, and we're getting to see that gameplay is kind of broken, right? With boarding crews, people board these ships, and the owner just kind of infinitely respawns in the bed. Now, eventually, respawns will be limited by the use of resources. So there's going to be a specific resource that you need to put in the medical bed to be able to respawn there. And if you run out of that if you run out of that resource, you won't be able to respawn. So that's eventually what the gameplay is going to look like. But they could slowly introduce that to the community like they have with Tier 0 item recovery by just putting a temporary limit on respawns in beds. Let's say maybe 5-10 respawns. And so a boarding crew who knows this will be like, okay, we need ammo and gear and whatever we have to be able to survive 10 respawns of the ship crew. So that kind of, puts a conclusion to the encounter between the boarders and the owner of the ship. That is, in my opinion, less problematic. But I want to know what you guys think about this, because I know a lot of people like having the ability to have that many respawns just in case. In my personal opinion, right, it's more likely that your ship is going to explode or you're going to lose access to it before you realistically need to respawn 1, 5, or 10 times. Really and truly, the only time that you're going to need to respawn more than that is if you're being boarded. So it just makes the gameplay feel less janky, right? It feels like an alpha if you just have somebody respawn in a bed a million times. That does not feel like good designed gameplay to me. Another thing that they could do is give the pilot control of this top remote turret here, similar to like what I was talking about on the Retaliator. We're going to have blades eventually, so kind of give us a sneak peek of that, give the pilot control of that top turret. I don't think it's going to make much difference with this ship, in terms of it being OP or anything like that. Last, after the Reclaimer, there's a lot going on with the Reclaimer that needs work. I mean, it's not in the best place right now. Anyone who does salvage, all my salvage citizen brothers out there, you probably know the troubles that the Reclaimer has and the issues. But what somebody said about it is it would be kind of good if CIG gave it PDCs. It is a capital ship after all, has capital class shields and whatnot. And smaller ships like the Constellation Phoenix even has PDCs. So I think adding, not many, maybe 2 to 4 PDCs on a ship this size would just kind of give it that survivability if the turret gunner or other crew members are kind of running around doing different things, right? Because the PDCs can act independently. And you're moving around very valuable cargo, so it makes sense, in my personal opinion, for it to have that kind of defensive capabilities, right? But I want to know what you guys think about this list, about ships that you want to see rebalanced. What do you think about these rebalanced suggestions? What other ships do you want to see? I love talking to you guys. You guys have really good suggestions out there. And there's going to be a lot more videos coming from me. I know I've been away for a little bit. Work has been super crazy, but now things have slowed down a little bit. I'm excited to make more videos. I've actually been having a lot of fun in the game. It has been running a lot better for me. So in terms of that shift focus of being more playable, I think that You know, if CIG keeps up with it, it's gonna be a good year for Star Citizen, in my personal opinion. A lot more videos on the way for me. Thanks for hanging out with me again, you guys. I always appreciate all support on these videos. That's gonna be it. Like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute.